Welcome to the Clutch Time Podcast with your host, Daniel Kreider and Ryan Vargas. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Whoa, bringing back the old school. Our guy D-Boy. Welcome, everybody. Yet another great week in sports. And the Alabama Crimson Tide, not the football team. Whoa, what? The basketball team beats Gonzaga. They put down Gonzaga, which is crazy. Then, of course, we had the Alabama football team that beat Georgia, and they pretty much ran the show during that game. Baylor beats Oklahoma State, which I believe is the game of the weekend. And after all that, welcome my co-host, Ryan Vargas. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. Feels good to be back with you guys.
Nice. And, of course, we got Ryan Palmer back for our football breakdown as well. How you doing, my friend?
You know, I'm pretty jacked after hearing that sweet intro. I mean, who?
Let's get right in. NCAA football championship week. Alabama beats Georgia, as we said before, 41-24. Michigan throttles Iowa 42-3. Cincinnati beats Houston to kind of solidify, their mark on the season. It beat Houston 35-20. And then this is just kind of something I thought was crazy, but Utah just throttles Oregon 38-10. But definitely my game of the week, and we discussed it before the show, was Baylor beats Oklahoma State 21-16 in a really close game. And I mean, really close game. Baylor's defense just gets much respect, for that end. And then what a play by McVay at the very end of the game. And with that being said, we kind of talked about it before, and I want to go into it. I have a question on that game. 10-29 in the third, and you're up 21-6. Why do you make the call to go for it? I mean, because I feel like that is the call that shifted the momentum in that game, in my opinion.
Well, I mean, the thing is you kind of ignored me asking if that was Snoop Dogg doing the hype song. So I felt like I was just being ignored completely. But anyways, I'm not petty about it. To answer your question, so for you guys who don't know, Baylor's coached by Dave Miranda. And Dave Miranda was the defensive coordinator for the 2019 LSU Tigers. Back when it's Joe Burrow and the guy who sounds like Kermit the Frog smoking cigarettes and Ed Orgeron, no longer the coach at LSU. So anyways, Baylor hires, credit a lot. Well, anyways, the defensive coordinator from Dave Miranda. And he's done a really great job turning this program around. Last year, I don't think they're even bowl eligible to now going to the Sugar Bowl. But to answer your question directly, and this is why I was talking about him being a defensive-minded coach, if you give me a room of offensive-minded players and coaches and defensive-minded players and coaches, I can pick them out really easily. Your offensive players are typically a little more methodical. They're more calculated. They're really even-keeled. They're not too emotional, unless you're like Johnny Manziel or Baker Mayfield. But then you see the defensive players, they're just a wild group of dudes, shirts untucked, screaming, having a big chewing tobacco dip in their mouth. And they're just emotional coaches and players. So the reason why he probably did it is because he wanted to shove the ball down their throat, make a strong message, and maybe even try to get into the college football playoffs, because you're playing another ranked team with 2 losses. So how are you going to get in? By, whooping the crap out of these guys. And I think that's probably what he was thinking. He made an emotional decision, not a very smart decision, but at the end of the day,
they got it done. Yeah, they got it done.
Well, and how perfect is that too? I mean, he's a defensive coach, and they got the win on a defensive stand at the goal line. So just kind of the irony of that, came back and ended up working out for him.
That was a strong take. That was a real strong take.
Appreciate that.
Get this guy an Oscar or an Emmy or whatever radio hosts get.
We'll get a podcast award, maybe. I don't know.
All the above. All the above, fellas.
I'd just be happy to get a participation trophy.
So it looks like we'll have Alabama versus Cincy Yeah, I hate to say it, Bearcat fans, that's not going to be pretty. That's going to be that's like loading up the hogs on the truck and you're headed to the slaughterhouse. You're getting ready to be bacon and ham. That's pretty much you know, I mean, anybody can win on any given day, but you know, but I got a question. What about that Michigan and Georgia? I mean, do you think Michigan's got any shot at all?
I think that the selection committee is trying again to fight for an all SEC national championship. So like you alluded to, Cincinnati ain't got a prayer, and I don't think they do either. And I think what's going to happen is Luke Fickell is going to realize that Cincinnati's great, but it's not as good as these other programs. And he's going to leave like Brian Kelly did in Notre Dame to probably go to like an SEC or Big 12 school. Legit, because if you guys didn't know this, Cincinnati has the second best chance to beat Georgia next to Alabama, right? And Alabama just whooped on them some on Saturday. I've been really doubting Michigan this year, and for good reason. They've been really underperforming, but now they've really overachieved. And I'm going to keep this trend up. I'm going to think Georgia is going to beat them in hopes. This is reverse psychology, gentlemen. I took psychology 101 in college. In hopes that Michigan beats Georgia. So I'm going to pick the Bulldogs to win and hoping in the back of my mind that Harbaugh can get it done and get in the national championship.
Well, I'm going to make here and say I think Harbaugh is going to beat Georgia. I think Michigan is hot right now. Michigan is hot right now. When you think about this time of year, just like that baseball World Series, it's who's clicking right now. And, when Alabama loses, it's scary for the next opponent, right? We're like, okay, well, it sucks whoever gets to play Alabama next because they're coming off loss. I don't picture Georgia that way. I picture Georgia more so in their head from that loss, questioning everything. And I picture a very, very hot Michigan team coming in that's very confident. Things seem to be flowing in their way, and I see them getting through Georgia and potentially, playing Alabama tough.
Yeah, the only question I have is, has Michigan seen a defensive line like Georgia? And yeah, you're right. Georgia's either gonna still be kind of in their head about it, or they might come back with vengeance because they are going to be hungry to get to Alabama again. You can believe that. So, what that looks like, I don't know. I'm with you guys. I would love to see Michigan, Alabama in the championship. I think that would be awesome. I think that would be really cool. You got the SEC against the Big Ten. I think if there was going to be an upset, it's going to be in that Michigan Georgia game. I mean, there's definitely not, like I said, Cincinnati don't have a chance. I'm sorry.
Well, and I don't mean to be combative here because I've already conceded to the fact that Ryan is the best looking Ryan on this podcast, bar none. And his takes for football have been getting, frankly, are better than mine. But now I'm going to have to push back a little bit and get a little feisty, a little more so than last episode when you were talking smack about Mac Jones and UTSA, go Roadrunners. So if you're talking about these hot teams, right? So you think Michigan's hot, and don't get me wrong, I agree with you. They are on a roll. Well, then what the hell has Cincinnati been on? I mean, are they just chopped liver? Have they not been on a roll too? So with that kind of logic, maybe they should beat Alabama. But come on, we look at the 5 to 4 star ratio that Alabama has to Cincinnati, and it's laughable because Alabama's been top 5 for I don't know since I was 19, and Cincinnati hasn't even cracked the top 25. Now, the disparity, I think is the word, between Michigan and Georgia is not quite that fast, but yet it's still pretty good. Michigan hasn't been pulling the top 5 recruiting classes like Georgia has. And I do think that it can happen. I really do, and I hope it does happen. But I think what probably happened to Georgia during the SEC championship game is they already knew they were getting into the playoffs. And they didn't have to win that one. So maybe they wanted a seeding so they didn't have to play a harder team. So you lose to Alabama, meet them again in the national championship, and beat them. I mean, we've seen that before a couple times. Not particularly with like Georgia, but Alabama lost to Georgia and then saw them again in the national championship game. And I think that's what they're trying to do. And it really just kind of peeves me here that we talk every team in there except for Cincinnati is a one-loss team. But where the hell are the Roadrunners? Where's my UTSA, man? They should be in the playoffs. We need to expand that thing to 36, different brackets and get the Roadrunners in the playoffs finally.
Come on, Roadrunners, let's go.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good point, Palmer. And when you talk about hot teams, it would be silly not to mention Cincinnati. I mean, they've been hot all year. I think for me, the difference is I just don't see Cincinnati winning at Penn State. I don't see them beating Ohio State. I don't see them throttling Iowa, and Michigan's one loss was a 4-point loss at Michigan State, which is a tough place to play. So aside from that, Michigan would be that undefeated team. And we could say that about a few other teams as well. But to me, that's the difference. And that's no disrespect to Cincinnati. They're undefeated and they deserve to be in the playoff. I mean, they really do. And who knows? They might go play Bama better than we all think they might, but I think Michigan and Cincinnati are two different teams. I guess time will tell for sure. But I just have this feeling that things are really flowing in Michigan's way right now.
Yeah.
They just really seem to be flowing in their way, and we'll see how far they can keep that going.
See, Ryan here is an offensive player because I gave a bunch of emotional statements just trying to power my point of view across, and he came back at me with facts. So kudos. You were an offensive player, weren't you?
Yes.
Yeah.
You're a good reader, man.
Nah, just need to prove my point. But no, and I agree with you. You put Cincinnati in the Big Ten, they're screwed. You put Cincinnati in the SEC, since of who?
Do they have 5 losses at that point?
Do they have 5 wins at that point?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, and my only concern is Alabama beat them, and it was mainly on how much time their quarterback had in passing. So they didn't run a lot and didn't run it well. Now, the only thing that scares me with that matchup is Michigan is a big running team, and Georgia has an exceptional running defense, and just based on what I've seen. So, like I said, if they mix it up a little more, maybe keep them a little more on their toes. But I think and I'm not saying Michigan won't figure it out, because I'm sure they're going to be watching that Alabama game tape, and I'm sure Harbaugh is going to come up with a really good plan. And like you said, they're on fire right now. And, hey, we'll see what happens. That's going to be some really good games. And I'm excited to see that one. That's going to be good stuff.
Palmer, I remember about 6-7 weeks ago, you had a hot take for all the Bulldog fans out there. And you said, I hate to break it to you guys, but if you guys meet Alabama in the SEC championship, you guys are going to see who still runs the show in the SEC. I don't know if you remember saying that or not, but you definitely were right about that, man. And I think it's so easy to take Alabama for granted, but what they do year in and year out, it's absolutely crazy, man. Absolutely crazy how they could go handle Georgia in a year where Georgia had all the momentum to win that game. And Alabama comes out and just beats themselves, and here they are at the number 1 spot in the playoff.
Well, right now I feel kind of bad for coming down on you, especially complimenting my takes from the very beginning. So, let's just team up on Dan and talk about how the Cardinals suck in baseball.
Oh, man, he's coming with thunder now.
Yeah, I don't just talk about football. I talk a lot of smack too. But no, and you're right. But I want to go back to, I think we can see that again with Georgia. I think they will redial things and get back to the championship form. And we absolutely do take Alabama for granted. God forbid they have a two-loss season, 2 years ago. And is Nick Saban done? Is the dynasty over just to go to the national championship the next year and winning it? And then this year it was losing to Texas A&M. Oh, they're not going to make it to the playoffs. Hell, even I said it. I might have made that, wickedly awesome take that was accurate 6 weeks ago, but make no mistake, about a week ago, I was thinking that Georgia was going to win because as I was seeing Alabama progress, they just didn't look that good, especially against Auburn. And Alabama is just probably one of the best teams to root for and one of the most favorite teams to hate on. And we're hating on greatness, even if they lost 3 games this year, like Oregon did. Go Utes. I'm just kidding. Let's go Ducks and all that other good stuff.
Yeah, no, that's a fact. And with the tag teaming off of that even more a little bit is that, to me, it solidified the fact that Alabama didn't play well in quite a few games this year, but still came out with W's. They won some really close games. And sometimes that's just what it is. You're playing terrible, but you still come out with the W. And now we get to see them against Georgia. Let's just be real. We're all athletes. That there's those teams that you're just amped and ready, and it's game time. And so sometimes you can play down to your competition and you can play up to your competition. And they did not disappoint in this game at all. And that was fun. That was a really fun thing to watch unfold. That was super cool.
Just one more thing about this though. I'm just going to start calling it the Alabama paradox. When you're talking about playing up to your competition or playing down to your competition, make no mistake, John, Alabama does not play down to its competition. It's absolutely impossible with the way Nick Saban rides them. However, they get the absolute best effort from every single team that they play. No other team gets that. Right. Oklahoma's not going to get the best effort from, say, like Kansas. They'll get it from like Oklahoma State and from Texas, but a lot of teams will just give up. But a lot of these teams that play Alabama, they're bringing the heat because everybody wants to knock off Alabama. You look at all the signs of the stupid fans. We want Alabama. No, you don't. You don't want an ass whooping. That's what you're saying. Hey, Dad, get the belt out. I want you to whoop my ass.
Yeah.
And then you get it and you're like, oh no, I wasn't asking for this. Well, yes, you were. You got it.
So that's just well put. That's just well put.
So with that, let's move on to the NFL. It looks like Tampa Bay, as Palmer would put it, they came out with the W today against Atlanta, 30-17. Huge game, and I say that very sparingly, with the LA Rams beating the Jaguars 37-7.
You mean the Grinders?
Yeah, the Grinders. Yeah, that's right. And the Seahawks beat the Niners. I was pretty shocked at that. The Cowboys looks like they beat the Saints 27-17. Man, the NFL is just a roller coaster. You got the Chargers beat the Bengals 41-22. Actually, the Bears got beat by the Cardinals 33-22, but honestly, they actually played fairly decent today. I mean, only losing to the Cardinals by 11 after that god awful game against Detroit. I thought they would just get throttled, but they didn't. So they, still a loss, but not as bad as I thought it was going to be. So what is you guys' take on this week in the NFL as far as, my take really hasn't changed as far as I feel like, like we said last week, one of your Bay teams are probably going to go, and, the Patriots are probably going to still be there. That's just my opinion of it. But so what are you guys' thoughts on that?
I just still can't quite figure out the AFC. I don't know.
Anybody can.
I don't know who my team in the AFC is. The Patriots do play tomorrow night, I believe, Monday Night Football.
Yeah.
Patriots against the Bills. So that'll be a good matchup right there going forward. But, shout out to the Cowboys. They got that win on Thursday night against the Saints team. That hasn't been super impressive, but it was a road win in the NFL nonetheless, which, it's the win. And shout out to the Detroit Lions. That's my take today. Shout out to the Detroit Lions. They got their first win. They are now 1-10-1 because you can tie in the NFL, which is a disgrace. You should never be able to tie in a sport.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
That's super weird, but
it's a participation trophy of the sports league.
Pretty much. That's kind of what it seems like. But Arizona stayed hot. I mean,
I'm gonna have to agree with Ryan. I don't really, and it's not even really the AFC. It's just I don't really know what's going on in the NFL. That's why I'm such a college fanatic, because I can easily understand that crap. You just recruit the best players and then you're good. But when you're in the NFL, all you guys are good recruits. Right. So that comes to the organization, and it's just a toss up. I think we're gonna see. And I said this last week, we're going to have a rematch of Tampa Bay, Tom Brady, right, for idiots who don't remember. Sorry, listeners, you're not idiots. I'm just upset. And New England. Outside of that, I'd also agree with Ryan that, you never see a quarterback so elated to win outside of a Super Bowl than getting your first win of the year at 10 losses. Did you guys see that? Jared Goff was ecstatic. The coaching staff, the players, they were freaking out. Like, yeah. I'm just like, shouldn't you guys, maybe just tone down the celebration a little bit? You guys just won your first game, and barely, by the way. It wasn't like you stomped them. I think it was like a walk-off touchdown pass. Just slowly roll, guys. You're not the Jacksonville Jaguars or the Grinders, and you're sure in hell ain't the Bay teams. So let's just have a little perspective. Show some class, as some of those fans that would say it. I'm just kidding. I hate that terminology. Good job, Lions. Hope you win the next one too.
Yeah, Minnesota's confidence isn't up real high right now. that's got to be rough, man. It's just like, when you're that team that beats the undefeated team, that's like something to celebrate. Yeah. When you're the team that gets the first loss to the team that's putting up a goose egg at this point, that's humiliating, but it's good. At least Detroit did get one win anyway. I don't know what the rest of their season's like. I mean, which Jacksonville and Houston are on the same boat. I mean, they only got one more win than Detroit right now. They're 2-10. So, but the Jacksonville has Urban Meyer, and hopefully our shirts will come in, and our shirts will come in. I'm with Urban. Hopefully they'll come hot off the press.
So can I say one thing about the Vikings in particular? Yeah. This is kind of what it was. You guys remember like the Sadie Hawkins dance back in high school, where the girl has to ask the guy out, like the guys can't ask the girls and stuff like that. Well, the Lions is the ugliest chick in school, and the Vikings in this instance is just like an average dude. Maybe doesn't play sports, maybe does acting, a little Broadway musical stuff that nobody cares about in high school back when we were there, but now that's the cool thing. But anyways, so he's thinking like, well, hell, I dated all these other girls, no one's really asking me, so this ugly chick in school is gonna ask me just to get dumped and say like, no, I can do better than you. And that's what it's like. They probably came in thinking that they're gonna get an easy win, because the Detroit Lions said, yeah, I'm not the ugliest girl in school. Now you are, bud. But anyways, probably not the best take, but that's just what came to mind when that happened.
No, that might have been a mic drop take at that point. Drop the mic. And all right. Well, I think that's probably about all we got on the NFL. So with that being said, Palmer, we appreciate it very much for you coming on. As always, you're always fun. College football going forward there's going to be some really good games. That's it. We're still going to have a lot to talk about, and I'm kind of amped up for that. Palmer, since you've come on the show, I've never ever in my life that have followed and got so amped up about college football, but you got me more interested in that aspect of college football that I'm starting to get locked in a little bit now, and I'm starting to really follow some of this stuff, and it's been fun. I see why you're so amped up for it. It's like college basketball. It's a blast to follow, man, and just kind of watch how this plays out.
Well, thank you. And Ryan, before I go, are you going to compliment me too, or is it just going to be Dan there?
Well, I was just going to say, it's a good thing we got you under contract, so you can't go, explore free agency and hop on different podcasts, man.
Yeah, you're locked in, man. It's only a 5 years, so don't worry about it. 5 years, $2.
and I'll change the studio. But you know what, guys?
Send you the
on a
t-shirt.
Serious note, this has been a blast. And I'm very blessed to be a part of this. And so thank you guys for allowing me to come on and talk about something that I love and be a part of the show. Just one more thing. If you want to talk about getting amped and things to look out for, the bowl season's the bowl season, but what you're going to want to watch are the other coaching changes that might be coming down the turnpike. Oregon might be losing Cristobal, who's going to replace him. I think Brett Venables, the defensive coordinator for Clemson, really good coach, is going to Oklahoma. Oklahoma just lost the number one recruit and wide receiver to Arkansas. So what is Oklahoma going to look like in the next couple weeks? So, just those kind of things to look out for you and your fans. But anyways, Jennifer Lawrence, this is going to be the last time I tell you, please stop messaging me. Not interested at all. I hope for the best, and let's go Roadrunners. Have a good one, guys.
Appreciate you, man. Thank you so much.
Colin.
All right, well, let's move in right on along to NCAA men's basketball. As I said at the beginning, man, Alabama beats Gonzaga. I could not believe that. Wow, what an upset. I mean, this is an unranked team at this point. And I was just shocked. That's just me. I was like way shocked. Shackelford. He had 28 points, something like 9 rebounds, 2 assists. And I think he was the leading scorer of the game. Timmy had 23. Holmgren only had 10. And, to me, with that all being said, I don't know why, but I really feel like Gonzaga needs to get Holmgren more involved. I just feel like I know he's young, but his IQ, is pretty high in my opinion. And I don't know. I could be wrong about that. I could be completely wrong, but I feel like he needs to get more involved. And because he was like 3 for 9 from the field. He did go 0 for 4 from 3-point range. But yeah, free throws was 4 for 7. So yeah, I don't know. And maybe I'm wrong about that, but I feel like that team right now is living and dying on Timmy. And I feel like it's just too much when you play some of these more athletic teams. I don't know. What are your thoughts as far as that goes?
I think that's an interesting take you just made. And looking at the stats here, I mean, in that Alabama game, Holmgren, out of their starting 5, Gonzaga's starting 5, there was 3 people who took more shots than he did.
Yeah.
And I think that's a very, very good point you made. With a talent like that, he's going to have to shoot more than 9 times. I mean, the kid was 3 for 9, 0 for 4 on 3-pointers. He still had 10 points, 11 rebounds, 4 blocks. He still had a double-double with 4 blocks as well. And the dude just makes the impact in the game. And Mark Few, he's a smart guy. And obviously he probably sees that as well because he knows how talented Holmgren is. And I think that's Gonzaga. What I respect so much about them is they're not afraid to play top teams. Alabama wasn't a top team, but Gonzaga's schedule, they've been through the ringer already.
Oh man, they've played the toughest schedule in the country. And
this is stuff that you want to figure out in December, in January, to prime you up for going forward. And with a recruit like Holmgren, as a coach, I can only imagine your mind's probably always going, how can we get this guy more involved? Like, how do we adjust to his style without making everything about him? Because he has other people who can play too. But I think that's a really interesting take you made. And I think going forward for Gonzaga to be successful, I mean, he's going to have to get probably around, 12 to 15 shots a game.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I feel like that's, and maybe that's what Few's trying to figure out too. Maybe, hey, let me see what I got because, coaching, especially a long season like basketball, some people are like, some fans get a little ridiculous over amped over certain things. And what they don't understand is that the coach is really trying to figure out, who can I depend on when the pressure's on? You know what I mean? Like maybe giving some of these guys off the bench a chance and different things just to see what he has fully, you know. And like I said, they've played the toughest schedule in the country, in my opinion. I mean, my gosh, they've played, you know, what, 2 top 10 teams or top 20 teams, I know for sure. And yeah, I just feel like maybe that's what it is, but I just, from what I've seen so far, I feel like he needs to be more involved. I feel like they need to get him in the mix. You know, because you look at, you know, for instance, and I hate to sound like this, but you know, if you were, I've seen a few Memphis games this year too, and you think of Imani Bates and you look at Chet Holmgren, right? If I was to compare the two and give them a grade, I would say that Holmgren probably has like a, you know, a B or B plus on IQ, makes good decisions, plays good defense. Imani Bates right now, to me, and this is just the beginning of the season, so, you know, just at this point, he's got a D minus for me, you know. And so I feel like, you know, when you compare the two, to me, like Imani's one that I would maybe not give as much time to right now. And Holmgren's that kid that he's a gamer, man. I would just get him more involved. And I think you're going to see the whole team flow with that. You know what I mean? And I think that's going to give Timmy some relief and balance the team out more. I that's just my thought. You know, I'm sure there's plenty of other basketball guys that would disagree with me on that, but that's just where I'm at with that. And maybe, like I said, like we said, they're just trying to figure it out. And so it's yeah, that's interesting. That was just what my thoughts were. And go ahead.
Well, you have like that. I think that's one of the biggest differences you see with college basketball and college football, right? Like college football, you try so hard not to lose because one loss can just absolutely throttle you for the whole year, you know. And you know, with college basketball, I mean, it reminds me of Tom Izzo. Michigan State, I don't know how high they're ranked this year, but Tom Izzo always plays his teams, even when he has a top 3 team, he's never going for an undefeated season.
No.
You know? And some coaches will schedule that way. You know, we want to kind of have a good record, you know, have that sexy record going into March and whatnot. But those real coaches, they want to be tested. And, you know, I think Gonzaga will be just fine. I think this is great feedback for them. You know, they have a whole new team basically and trying to figure that out. But with Memphis, I see a completely different story. Yeah. I see a team that has a long ways to go.
Very long way.
A long ways to go. And, you know, I think that there was a lot of expectation for them coming in, especially with Imani Bates. I think you've been very accurate with, it's not criticism, with just your opinion on his performance, because like we said before the show, the kid was the first ever Gatorade High School Player of the Year as a sophomore, you know, so there's a lot of hype around him. So to see him perform the way he has, I mean, you hope that he could turn it around. But yeah, Memphis has been pretty disappointing. You know, Duke's been very impressive. Gonzaga, they're going to figure it out. They're going to go on a run. But yeah, it's just, I just have so much respect for those coaches who purposely schedule those hard games at the beginning, and aren't going for that perfect record. They want to be primed and ready to go come tournament time.
Yeah, I agree. And now going back to Memphis here and Imani Bates, I got a question. So just so everybody knows that's listening, Imani Bates is actually supposed to be a senior in high school this year. So let's keep that in mind. When I bring the criticism and my opinions, let's keep that in mind. So I don't, you know, disqualify that. But there was also a decision that was made to reclassify him up so he could go to college. And my question is, was that a good decision? And I guess what I'm also going to add on to that is, did they do it to develop him? So did they have a long-term goal, or did they think it was just he was going to be a one and done kid and it's backfiring on him? Either way, I mean, what's your thoughts? For me, I feel like as young basketball players, and you mentioned something there, as a sophomore, he was the Gatorade Player of the Year. That's a big deal. You know, there's a lot of kids that are in that decision-making process. So maybe he's just trying to find his niche. I don't know what it is. But the kid's really young and he's got a ton of potential. I mean, the kid's like 6'9", and obviously he can play. So yeah. I don't know. What's your thoughts on that, to classify up to go to college?
Well, I think in the long run, I think it'll pay off. Because, the question is, should he be playing his senior year of high school with high school kids right now and dominating, or should he be playing D1 at Memphis, getting a little roughed up and having to grow a little bit more than he probably would at his high school in his senior year, going to prom and stuff? Yeah. And I think in the moment it might look like, what is this kid doing? He should have waited. But I think he's in a good situation with Penny.
I think so too.
And I think that they'll develop him. They might have thought that he would be a one and done, but hey, it'll be better for Memphis if he stays a couple years, maybe 3 years,
yeah,
that's better for their whole program. But I think it'll pay off. I think he's very talented. He's got a long ways to go. Throughout all this mess that's taken place so far for him, he's averaging just under 12 points, 3 rebounds, 1 assist. So he's only shooting 38%, and that's fairly low. That's something he's definitely going to have to pick up on. But I think in the long run, man, it'll pay off for him.
Yeah, and I think you hit the nail on the head too there with Penny. I couldn't imagine Penny not being a good coach. And not only that, just FYI, he is getting some fire recruits down in Memphis for the next year for sure. And to me, I think that's going to continue to grow. So Memphis is going to start looking, if I remember back right, Kentucky used to be that way. And so honestly, I could see Memphis, kind of building something similar with Penny down there like that. He draws players. That Duren kid is just the opposite. He has been super impressive to me. He's built to play in the league. He's a good defensive guy. I think he's going to be tough. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that develops. So speaking of Duke as well, Ohio State beat Duke this last week, which was an absolute shocker to me. And I remember we were talking about a guy by the name of EJ Liddell, and EJ in that game had 14 points, 14 rebounds, 6 assists. Banchero, he was in foul trouble early, but he still finished with 14 points, 5 rebounds. And then Moore Jr. had 17 points, 8 rebounds, and 5 assists. And, so they had 2 Dukies that kind of, played really well. But EJ Liddell hit a huge shot just at the right time, and they ended up beating Duke. So upset city already starting early in the season. And that was the ACC Big Ten Challenge, which is interesting. Which is extremely interesting. So, did you get a chance to see that game at all, or?
I caught the end of that game.
Yeah,
I did. Good. It was exciting. Yeah, it was fun. And that game was at Ohio State, I believe, correct?
It was, yes. Yeah.
So that was a real road game and a real road test for Duke. Came up short, but they had chances. They definitely had chances at the end. Sure. They didn't execute. Good learning moment for them, but upset city for sure early on in this college basketball season. And that was a big win for Ohio State, for their confidence. Duke's a good team this year, man. And Coach K is another one of those coaches who really likes to test the waters early and really likes to kind of see what his team's made out of early. And I think we know what we know about Duke already. I think the question is, what does that win mean for Ohio State? Was it a one-off because they were the home team there, or are they actually going to turn out to be a pretty powerful team this season? And that's kind of what I'm curious. I feel like Duke's going to be Duke this year, and they've proven that. But it'll be interesting to see how Ohio State shapes up and if they can continue that momentum from that big win against Duke.
Yeah, I don't know if Ohio State's going to be a big factor. I mean, they're going to be one of those teams that that I think they're going to be a problem for certain teams, and then maybe not so much for others. So it'll be interesting to see that. The one of the shocking teams so far this year for me, and actually I got another team I want to talk about that I just remembered just now. But North Carolina is deceptively good. They ran Michigan clean out of the building. I mean, it wasn't even close, and I mean not even a little bit close. And so that was interesting to me. Because North Carolina, it preseason anyway, nobody's really talked about, but I'll tell you what, because North Carolina beat Michigan 72-51. Keep in mind, North Carolina is not even ranked in the top 25. So they always seem to get good guys, you know. They always seem to be in the mix, and it's it'll be fun to see how they progress through the year, because just like you were saying about Coach K, he likes to test early. I feel like North Carolina does kind of the similar things. You know, they kind of mock each other in some aspects of the game. So that'll be real interesting, and I think North Carolina is going to be one of those teams that's going to be a problem for a lot of teams as well. So kind of on the same wavelength as Ohio State, North Carolina. And have you got to see them play at all this year yet?
I haven't watched North Carolina yet. No, but it's good to see them back up and being good again. I feel like, you know, they didn't fall off, but the past couple of years, it seems they weren't that North Carolina that we're used to knowing. So I feel like college basketball is better when the Tar Heels are up there.
No doubt. And they did fall off. I mean, they haven't been the North Carolina that we've all known and loved. I've always enjoyed North Carolina basketball from day one. And then I want to talk about one more team, because honestly, I think this is the number one team in the country. And it's kind of like the Alabama, Georgia scenario we were talking about. There's Alabama, Georgia, and then everybody else. And right now that team is the Purdue Boilermakers in the Big Ten. Dude, they are loaded. And I mean loaded. And it seems like they have so many weapons that I just do not see them. You know, I mean, they're good. I think it's not that they can't be beat, but man, I'm telling you what, I have a hard time searching and finding teams right now that could beat them. I mean, honestly, it's they're that good. And you know, people are now starting to talk about them, but they are a team that is going to be a major problem. Iowa actually gave them a good game. They only beat Iowa by 7 points on Friday night, but I'm telling you, that team, I see them in the championship right now, easily. And I feel sorry for anybody that meets them in the Final Four if they keep this streak on. But we also know that the tournament's a little different. It's all about momentum and whatnot, you know. So it's whatever team's hot really at that point in time. But as we seen with Baylor last year, I remember talking about that tournament. They were just incredible. Right. And so yeah, Purdue is loaded. Jaden Ivey, he's a killer, man. He's an absolute killer. And they're going to be a team that everybody should definitely keep their eyes on, because they're going to put a hurting on some teams this year. And so, yeah, that's my take on that. Be looking for the Boilermakers.
I like that. It's good to hear about Purdue, man. I didn't know that they were ranked number 2.
Yeah. They got bumped ahead of Duke. They haven't been beat yet. That Iowa game was actually a fairly close game, but dude, this next week, I would pay attention to Purdue, because you just see, actually, Matt Painter has always been one of my favorite coaches. He's not one that gets talked about a lot because he hasn't had a lot of he's had success, but he hasn't had a ton of success, if that makes any sense. And so this year, Purdue, let's see, they beat North Carolina 93-84. They beat Villanova 80-74. They beat Florida State 93-65. And that Florida State team, that score makes them look bad, but it's not. And man, then you got Iowa by 7. I mean, Travion Williams, dude, this team's the legit team. And actually, one of my another game to keep an eye on is going to be on January 17th. They go to Champaign to take on my guys at Illinois. Shout out Monte Williams. I think that's going to be a hell of a game, honestly. I mean, and that's going to be fun to watch. So, and people were at first were like, well, they got Michigan on the 11th. Michigan, honestly, I hope they turn that program around. But right now, Michigan is playing just awful. I mean, they're kind of along the lines of a Memphis to me right now. I see the major potential in those teams, but it's going to be up to them to turn it around. It's making good offensive decisions, playing good defense. It just seems like, well, Michigan State, look at Michigan State. Michigan State's could be really good, but right now it seems like early, some of these teams, the teams that we mentioned like that, it's really just turnovers are killing them and bad decisions, bad shot selection. I've seen really bad shot selections from all three of those teams lately, and trying to force the hand, kind of thing. And so it'll be interesting to see how because I think they'll turn it around. I mean, and you got some good young coaches in there, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But that is my take as far as those teams go. I think they can get better. It's will they get better?
So what's the most powerful conference you feel like this season?
So right now, and we're not talking football here, but I'm telling you what, the SEC is pretty doggone good.
They're stacked.
Kentucky's going to be good, or is good. Yeah, dude, it's, right now, if you look at it and you look at the rankings as they are now, you have the SEC has the most teams ranked right now, which is crazy to me. I don't even remember how many times that and the crazy part of that is, Ryan, is how many ACC teams do you see in there?
Well, it is crazy. I mean, you look at these SEC schools, and aside from Kentucky, I mean, we're talking Florida, Tennessee, Auburn, Alabama, Arkansas. Bro, these are football schools.
That's what my point is. Like, I don't know what the football mojo is flowing, man.
It is. And you said it earlier, the SEC is just taking over basketball as well. And I mean, it's hard to argue that. That's pretty impressive. I would say that the Big 12, they got Baylor, they got Kansas, they got the Texas Longhorns. I feel like they're a pretty powerful conference as well, but the conference with the most teams in the mix, I mean, it's the SEC, no doubt about it.
Yeah, I mean, you have the Big Ten that's right on their heels. Don't get me wrong, because you have Purdue, you have let's see who you got. Purdue, you got Michigan State, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Illinois got bumped. Okay, so yeah, wow, man, that's that's crazy to look at this. But the thing I do like about it is it's probably more balanced than I've seen it in a while, and because really the Big Ten, when you talk about, I mean, really they're 23-20 or 23-24 is Michigan State, Wisconsin, and Michigan. And then you got Purdue, who is, I think, I can't see anybody that would match up well with them and beat them. including Duke in that top. I really wish the ACC challenge, the ACC Big Ten challenge, we would have seen in Purdue and Duke. Because you're talking potential national championship game in the NCAA tournament there, potentially. Don't count out your Baylor's and your Big 12 schools, because
for sure. But I mean, I feel like they're pretty consistent. And what's interesting to me is, we talked about the SEC having all these ranked teams. It wasn't long ago that the ACC was full of ranked basketball teams.
Yeah.
And now looking at them, I mean, that's a conference with Syracuse, North Carolina, Louisville, Wake Forest, Florida State, Virginia Tech. I mean, Notre Dame's in there, Clemson. Anyways, I say all that to say Duke is the only ranked team that I'm seeing in that conference right now.
It's crazy. It's absolutely nuts. Crazy to me, because, I mean, if it stays like it is right now, Ryan, we could see one, maybe two ACC teams in the tourney.
Yeah.
I don't know any year I've ever said that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah, they've been the basketball like the SEC is for football. I feel like for a long time that's been the ACC for basketball, but very interesting what's going on down there in the Southeastern Conference. Very, very interesting, and it'll be really interesting to see if those are legit teams that can really take it far, because if they start winning championships in basketball and football,
oh man, SEC network is going to be loaded. And they're going to have a lot of firepower, because as your conference does well, so does the recruits migrate to that conference,
Yes.
And so it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out. But I think you'll see some teams shift in and out of this top group. I'll tell you some teams to watch out for is going to be the 10 and 11 that they have ranked right now, which is that Arkansas, Arizona, and and I'll throw Texas in there too. Those are three teams that could potentially be a major problem. Texas has been beat. They got beat by Gonzaga. I think this is their downside. And this is the opposite of what we talked about earlier, is that Texas's schedule early on has been just god awful. It's like, you should be throttling these teams. Gonzaga is the only quality team I think they've really played thus far. And, so there's a lot of in the middle of the pack there that I think you'll see. Arizona is going to be tough. They throttled OSU today, Oregon State University today, which they're terrible. So
they did. I'm glad you brought them up. I think that they're a team that can really make some noise in March. They've been throttling everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody. And granted, they haven't gone through schedules like Gonzaga and Duke have, but they're doing what they're supposed to do to these teams. And they played Michigan as well when Michigan was ranked number 4, and they beat them by about 20 points, beat them by 18.
Right.
So if there's a team in the Pac-12 that could make a run, a deep run, I feel like it's Arizona, and which isn't super abnormal. They every once in a while they get teams like that
oh yeah
are tough for sure. But
they do. And it's a good program. Lute Olson had that program for years. Now you got Sean I can't remember his name now. Okay. Anyway, you got the guy who's down there now, and he's done really well. I ain't even gonna try to fight that. Sometimes it just goes, and it just he gone.
Sorry, I couldn't help you out.
Yeah, but UCLA's in the mix too. So those are two teams there that I think. But if you watch Arizona play, their system, it just looks good. Like they play exceptionally well. And I agree with you. I think that is a team that could go really deep. They're sitting at 11. I really, honestly, I think the only reason they're sitting at 11 is because of strength of schedule early on. But nobody's going to give them that. And you got, Duke has already played Gonzaga. Duke's played some pretty good teams. So this is going to be a fun year in basketball. I feel like it's going to be a balanced year. Like I said, keep an eye on Arkansas as well. Arkansas is going to be good. It's kind of crazy. I was predicted early on that Florida State was going to be pretty good this year, and they've not proven that to me yet. So it is what it is, though. Hey, you can't be right about all of them, but
you can't. And Arizona will get a good test come January. They play at Illinois, at Tennessee, at UCLA. So they'll get tested coming up for sure.
Yeah, because they're, Illinois is another team, and it's kind of surprising not to see them in the top 25 right now, but I think you'll see them creep in. You're going to see another ACC team probably creep in. I'll tell you what, if Memphis keeps it up, I can't believe they ain't been footed out the door already, because they are playing horrible. I mean, it's, if there's any teams up there that need to be booted, I think they're one of them. And honestly, Michigan, Big Ten will lose one there, but I think if Michigan played Illinois today, they would get beat pretty bad. I don't know. I guess only time will tell, and we'll see how all that continues to progress and how it moves forward. So it's going to be a fun year in college basketball, that's for sure. Uh-oh. I know what that means. We made it through another week.
Made it through.
Yes. Well, that's all we got for this week. Make sure you please like, share, subscribe on our YouTube channel. Wherever you get your podcast, give us a review. Let us know what we're doing good, maybe you could like to see us do better. I don't know. A lot of fun stuff happening in sports. We will see you all next week. We love you. God bless. Peace.